Jenkins.
Here.
5 present. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Do I have an approval of the agenda?
So move.
Second. Chairman Cox.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Ferris.
Aye.
Commissioner Heeman. Aye. Commissioner Mondragon.
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins.
Aye.
5 ayes. Motion carries.
Do I have an approval of the minutes of 7/27/21?
I propose an update to and the spelling of my name in the approval of minutes and the approval of agenda. And with that modification, I move to approve the minutes.
Chairman Cox.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Ferris.
Aye.
Commissioner Heeman. Aye. Commissioner Mondragon. Aye. Commissioner Jenkins.
Aye.
5 ayes. Motion carries.
We move into the public comment section of the agenda. Persons wishing to address the Commission on matters that are within the Commission's jurisdiction and do not already appear on the agenda may do so at this time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the Planning Commission may not take action on an item that does not appear on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes. The public comment section is limited to an hour. Each speaker is asked to provide his or her name. Do we have anybody from the public that wish to address the Planning Commission? Do I have anybody calling? Seeing none, we'll move on. I'd like to open this public hearing and start with the site plan review 21-05 KFC Restaurant. Consideration of an application for the KFC restaurant at 201 South China Lake Boulevard, APN 478-10101, applicant. Staff report.
So this item has been public noticed for the hearing tonight, but staff and the project applicant still have some things to work out. So staff is going to ask that Planning Commission continue the item until the next regular Planning Commission meeting, which is October 26th.
Do I have an approval to continue?
So move.
I second.
Heather, is that going to be enough time?
Yes.
Okay, and it's not going to require a special, get it done sooner?
If something comes up and we could do that, then I'll be in touch. But at this point, we're just going to continue it to the next regular.
Thank you.
Do you need a vote?
Sure. Chairman Cox.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Ferris.
Aye.
Commissioner Heeman. Aye. Commissioner Mondragon. Aye. Commissioner Jenkins.
Aye.
5 ayes. Motion carries.
Second item on our agenda is a tentative track map 7358. Applicant is requesting a variance 21-04, a request for a subdivision of 11.08 acres gross and 10.16 acres net of vacant land into 43 single-family resident lots within a minimum, with a minimum lot size. Staff report.
So this project is located on Down Street between Ridgecrest Boulevard and Las Flores. The site is approximately 11.08 acres of vacant land. The parcel is zoned single-family residential with a general plan designation of residential low. The property is surrounded by mostly vacant land with residential designations and general commercial to the south. To the north is an existing residential development. The map consists of 44 lots with 10.16 net acres. It's a residential low designation, which requires a minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet. This map, the lot sizes range from 6,372 square feet to 13,708 square feet. The parcel is zoned single-family residential, so future development of single-family residences would be subject to the city's development standards, including the building heights, setbacks, lot coverages.
Heather, move that mic a little closer to you.
That good?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So the map is in conformance with the zoning ordinance and the general plan. The applicant has requested a variance for the side yard setbacks. Current city standards are 5 feet on one side and 10 feet on the other. The applicant is requesting a reduction to the setbacks to 5 feet on both sides. Staff is recommending that the variance to the side yard setbacks be considered at a later time in the development when the engineering grading plans have been submitted, because this would allow for staff to appropriately condition the project if necessary. So that is in the conditions. It's under grading. So a negative declaration was prepared for this project, for the CEQA. The initial study was circulated, and staff did receive comments from the Department of Toxic Substance Control. Staff reviewed those comments, and the project has been conditioned to address any potential hazards that may be present on the site, should that be necessary, in soil studies. So that's another condition that's on the project. So staff is going to recommend a 36-month approval of tentative track map 7358 and an approval of the negative declaration. So the 36-month is also, that's what the municipal code states. The resolution is incorrect, so it would be a 36-month.
So you just said 7358. I show 7359.
The first one is 7358.
Okay.
Also, Travis is here if you have any questions, as well as the project applicant, Daryl Witten.
Commissioners?
So
Questions?
the first question that I have is, it should probably go to the infrastructure committee, is what is Race Communications' plan to include future subdivisions?
Communication as far as what?
The new fiber lines.
So I can speak in general to this. Typically, the applicant applies to whichever communication company they are wanting to run infrastructure for. Currently, the majority of the subdivisions that I've seen thus far out here have adopted a Mediacom standard to which they place conduits specific to what Mediacom requires. We are actually working with Race right now to help develop a minimum standard for our standards update to go into our standards to show minimum communication conduits to aid any dry utility broadband provider to be able to not cut the streets and have points of entry and backbone and things like that to be able to run fiber, copper, whatever they are running. So these houses would have access to that. There is a major point of access. It does run down street eventually when they start putting their infrastructure in, so access to this subdivision should not be a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Are we notifying them of subdivisions that are underway?
Yes, they are aware of the majority of the subdivisions up the hill and the two subdivisions that are on Bowman. However, I'm not 100% sure if I mentioned them to anything about a down street subdivision, but shouldn't be a problem, as like I said, backbone will be right there. So.
Okay. Commissioners, any other questions?
I do want to point out that currently Argus is not paved, and so that would just be something to include in future plans.
The public works requirements state that street improvements per RMC 105-33 through 105-173 are required. On Argus, there would be a required half-street width because of where their property line is and where the developed portion of that map would be. But those are all included in the Public Works conditions of approval.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any other thoughts, Commissioner? Okay, turn the time over to for public comment. Darrell? Some of these people probably don't know you, so you might introduce yourself.
Oh, here we go. My name is Darrell Whitten. I'm with Cornerstone Engineering, and we're the engineer for these three projects that are being considered tonight. So this is a refile of a tract map that I think I originally filed in 2005, and the map finally expired. So we're refiling it. This is essentially the same map and configuration that we had then. So we are going to approve the map for 36 months. All right, that's my first thing. Condition number 15 said a soil sample for lead analysis. Was that because of the letter that you got from the Department of Toxic Substances?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Well, that's shouldn't be a problem. All right. The condition at the top of page 14 of 16, which would be under Public Works, A2, this is about drainage improvements. So I don't want to get into the weeds tonight, but I want to know how this is going to work. It says the subdivider shall form a special drainage benefit assessment district prior to the recordation to cover the cost of operating and maintaining the retention basin and storm drain system. A special drainage benefit assessment district is a taxing authority. I don't think the subdivider has the ability to form a taxing authority. Is this supposed to be like an HOA or something, or?
To my knowledge, it's not an HOA. It's a standard practice with what we did up the hill with D.R. Horton. It's to aid the city in generating revenue to maintain weed abatement and allow the storm drain facility to function correctly. I believe that the way we've handled it in the past is the developer requests that the assessment district be there. Mm-hmm. We solicit a firm or ourselves to do it. We give a cost, and there's a deposit paid, and then we work together to form the drainage benefit assessment district.
Okay, so we just have to work with the city to get this put in place before we sell lot number one. So the developer turns in a ballot asking to be annexed into the district. The city forms the district, and then we go on from there.
That is my understanding of it. I know that there are going to be some challenges from it. All the ones we've done currently have all annexed and have been in one district. So we have some research to do on whether or not we have to form another district, which based on the limited research that I've done, I'm pretty sure we have to form another district to be able to do it.
I'd prefer that we all annexed into one. That just cuts the overhead. But, we'll do what we have to do. Okay. The next condition right below that says design storm drain inlet structure to retention basin for a 50-year storm event. I believe the city standard for this type facility is a 10-year.
That's what I understand too.
I think it's a 10-year, 5-day. We follow Kern County. So I think that is a typo.
Okay. Well, that was my expectation. It would be a 10-year, 5-day. So if we can have that changed in the final version.
Real quick before, not to cut you off, Lauren, can you verify I'm right on that, right? 10-year, 5-day?
Are you referring to Kern County or our current master plan and design manual?
I'm referring to our general, what we hold most of our subdivisions to.
Yeah, it's 10-year. It also depends if it's a sump condition. If it's a sump condition, generally you use a higher 50-year reoccurrence interval. But ours is 10-year and 24-hour.
Okay,
so
I think we have a semantics thing here because the 5-year, I mean, the 5-day, 10-year. So if the city manual says a 10-year, 24-hour storm, that's how much rain you'd get in a 24-hour period. But if you go to NOAA 14 and you look at a 10-year, 5-day interval, that's a series of storms that statistically would only happen. Anyway, when you end up with that size, it's about the same as a 50-year, 24-hour. So I'm okay with either one. They're going to be in the neighborhood. But, yeah, the 10-year
24-hour.
The 10-year 5-day is what we've been sizing sumps for, and that's a standard that I think is responsible. Either way, we'll work that out. It's an engineering issue. I just don't want to size the catch basin and the storm drain pipe for a 50-year peak because that's not appropriate here. But if we're talking about the sump size, we can work that out. Now, the variance for the side yard setbacks. City has a standard that says 5 foot on one side, 10 foot on the other. And essentially on a typical 60 by 100 foot lot, which is 6,000 square foot lot, that limits you to a 45 foot wide house on the lot. And a lot of builders like to put a 50 foot wide lot on this because that's what's allowed in the county and most other cities. So we'd like to have the option of going 5 feet on either side. And from what I understand, Heather, you said you wanted to defer the variance until we turn in a grading plan, but doesn't the Planning Commission have to approve a variance? Can staff approve the variance if we show how the grading is going to work? That's my question.
So at this time, Planning Commission would be required to approve the variance. The concern that staff had with this track in particular was the possibility of drainage or flooding washing out in the side yards. So in order to understand without placing unnecessary conditions for retention walls, as you mentioned, or something of that nature, the idea was that we would have grading that would show what kind of improvements might be necessary to allow that, should it be necessary.
Okay, so does that mean we have to come back to Planning Commission with the grading plan?
Not with the grading plan, no. But that would, if we had the grading plan and we asked for the variance and found that it was necessary, then at that time we would be able to, as staff, to make an argument that it is safe and that we have a solution if there is any kind of runoff issues.
Okay.
Can I just make is there a way that we could, since we already have to go back and make a couple changes on these conditions, could we have a Planning Commission approval for the variance should they satisfy all the drainage requirements and staff concerns?
Yes, it can be conditioned. We can approve a variance based on the conditions that are presented in the grading plan approval of staff.
Okay.
That way you don't have to come back.
Okay. If I could address the issue, though, and not take all night, the exhibit that's shown on the tract map shows typical lot grading, and the typical lot grading that we show is what I call FHA grading. It's a schematic grading plan or design that's an FHA standard, and it shows the house kind of sitting up on a mound with a high point in the backyard and swales coming around the side so that all the backyard drains out to the front. Mm-hmm. And I chuckle every time I see it because I have to certify a lot of house grading plans, and on the day that the homeowner takes occupancy of the house, those swales are there and they're beautiful. And then the next day, the flat work contractor shows up and they pour concrete all over their backyard. They put sidewalks down the side of the, and so it's all ruined. So in the end, all the rainwater that falls in the backyard ends up just soaking in the backyard. It doesn't really go anywhere. Now, one of the things that we're doing on tracks now is I'm starting to put in 3-inch PVC storm drain area drains in the backyard that come around the side of the house, and they pop up right behind the sidewalk, so the backyards can't flood. And they work pretty well. I've had them on my house now for 2 years, and they drain the backyard awesome. So I understand Lauren's concern with this, and there are several different ways we can get around it. We just need to make sure the backyard's drained to the front and we don't have deep swales along the side yard. Most of these tracks, this one's an exception, but most of these tracks have very little change from one pad to the next. So if this pad's 0.2 of a foot lower than this one and you're going down the street, the little grade change between the tracks is imperceptible. And so this is not a problem. But if you guys can approve the variance on the condition that we satisfy Public Works drainage concerns about individual lot grading, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, we can do that. One of the challenges that we face and was brought up to me was the subdivision just to the north of this project. The elevation, when they did the pads and that, is 3 foot lower than some of the grade here. And we don't want to end up with this water into a 3 foot lower section, which is into these homes. And so, as Heather was saying, we don't want to do some sort of a wall or anything else to try and keep the cost down of development. And so that's what we wanted to see, is if we're going to do a grading plan and this is going to be lowered. You go on to Downs and you see the same thing where you got a 3 foot elevation. In order to do your ingress regress, you're going to have to do some grading there too. And so that's where staff was coming from. We need to see how that's going to conform both with the land itself and in conjunction with the existing infrastructure.
Right. And it'll have a lot to do with how big a house the builder wants to put on these lots.
Right.
If a lot of these lots have big, tall, skinny, 2-story houses, then there'll be plenty of room for side yard swales, that sort of thing. But if they want to go with a wider house and we have big, a 1 foot step between one pad and the other, then they're going to have to put in a retaining wall. So those kind of things we can deal with that when this goes to engineering. So I'm fine with.
Yeah, so
with
their recommendation
addressing those
isn't a
concerns.
no. It's just that we would like to have it under these conditions.
Okay. I'm fine with that. The last one on this particular tract has to do with streetlights on Downs. Just to the north, the tract to the north puts streetlights behind the sidewalk, but then if you go north of Las Flores, the streetlights are they're in the center line, or they're in the median in the center with double heads on them. And so the condition says to install streetlights in the center median on North Downs, but that's not what is installed in the tract to the north. So I'm wondering, do we want to do something different along this tract frontage, or just match what's already been started at the north end of the tract?
So staff's perspective on that is Downs is a major arterial. All the new street lighting we've been putting in are the double cobra heads in the center of the median, and at some point in time, staff would like to change the ones that were put in that are on the side streets to be ones that are in the center, so it remains consistent.
Okay, then we'll leave that condition the way it is. The cost is not really a big one way or the other. We're going to have to pull conduit, and Edison will have to run wire to it. So
the other thought behind that is it is a lot of dirt too. So we didn't see, like you said, the cost difference is not much because the majority of that median is dirt.
right. So yeah, trenching and such is not a big deal. Okay, so condition number 1 is going to be modified to 36 months. Condition, okay, that one's been explained. Condition number 2, no, condition A to B is going to be a 10-year storm event, and the variance is going to be approved subject to the developer addressing grading and drainage concerns. If the-
Unapproved grading plan.
Yeah, on the approved grading plan, okay. And I think all the rest of them will stay the same.
Heather, you have those?
I do.
Any questions from the commission? I would look for a motion to approve with those conditions. Heather, something from you first?
No.
Do I have an approval with those conditions and changes?
So moved.
Second? Second. Thank you.
Chairman Cox,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Ferris,
Aye.
Commissioner Hayman. Aye. Commissioner Mondragon.
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins.
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, for the record, Heather, that's resolution, what number? Because I've got an XX.
Yeah, it's, let's see.
Let me get to it again.
You don't like XX?
It's 21-07.
Okay, so you might want to state that. We have 5 ayes for resolution 21-07.
5 ayes for resolution 2107.
Thank you. Moving on to item 4. It is a tentative tract map 7359 and variance 2103, a request to subdivide 11.3 gross acres, 8.3 net acres of vacant land zoned residential into 50 single-family residential lots and 1 sump lot with a minimum lot size of 6,000 feet. The project also includes a variance application for the lot depth less than 100 feet, lots 19, 20, 25 through 28, APN 480-010-15 and 480-010-13, staff report.
So this map is located adjacent to the Bowman Wash between Norma Street and China Lake Boulevard. Access to the site will come from Bowman Road via a bridge across the Bowman Channel that was part of a previous map, and also through the residential neighborhood to the north of the project site. The site is approximately 8.2 acres of vacant land. The parcel is zoned single-family residential and multifamily residential with a general plan designation of residential low. Single-family dwellings are a use by right in R1 and R2. The property is surrounded by vacant land to the east and west with residential designations and general commercial. The north is existing residential development. The map consists of 51 lots with 8.2 net acres. It's residential low designation, which requires a minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet. This map's lot sizes range from 6,072 square feet to 11,393 square feet. The parcel is zoned single-family residential. Future development of single-family residences would be subject to the city's development standards. The tentative tract map 7359 is in conformance with the zoning ordinance of the general plan. The applicant has requested a variance for the side yard setbacks, just like the other map, and they've also requested a variance for the lot depths on lots 19, 20, and 25 through 28. Staff recommends approval of the variance for those lot depths due to the size and shape of the parcel. The impacted parcels are all configured in a cul-de-sac, so the characteristics of the cul-de-sac cuts into the lot depth. The variance would not be a public health or safety risk, so staff does recommend approval of that. And if Planning Commission would consider the same condition on the setbacks portion, then staff would recommend that as well to be added to this resolution. A negative declaration was prepared for this project as well. The initial study was circulated and no comments were received on this map. Staff recommends this 36-month approval and the variance approval, and that Planning Commission also approved the negative declaration tonight.
Commissioners, do you have questions? I do. Heather, the R2 property to the north, Daryl, did we not work on this? Isn't that the commercial property that was going to put in a bridge over the Bowman Channel? Okay, so we're not planning on this bridge at all, are we? All the ingress regress is going to be on the street side, but no crossing onto the across the Bowman Channel, right?
Well, I think the fire and police chief would have a problem with that, because this project, again, this is a refile of a map that was approved back in 2005, 2006, and there's always been an assumption that for the development of this project, there would be a bridge and a connection to Bowman. And the same developer owns this property as owns the 5 acres that to the east that fronts onto China Lake Boulevard. And even for his commercial development there, he wants to have a bridge. So there's going to be a bridge that's going to be shared between this residential development and his commercial. The commercial will probably go first.
Well, I wanted to make sure that I was correct. So most of the commission wasn't privy to that information. So kind of give you a little bit of history. It was brought to the Planning Commission, commercial development for a restaurant or something in this piece of property that was to the north. And one of the conditions of that, they requested access or a bridge, to put in a bridge over which comes over by the old Walmart. And that was approved. And so this will piggyback on that. So either development would be required to put in that bridge for it to go forward. Correct?
Correct.
As I understand it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that just kind of gives you the background history so that you don't kind of look at that and go, we've got a Bowman Channel, what do we do with it? And so on and so forth.
I would just like to elaborate on that, just so you guys understand. It's not a bridge in the sense of what you guys think, like a bridge, like a freeway overpass. This will be a bridge in the sense because of the width of the bottom of the channel. Anything over 20 feet wide is classified a bridge, but it will be like an arch culvert type construction with earth over the top of it. It's not going to be a full-on bridge. So,
yeah, but it's like 22 feet wide and about 9 feet tall. It's a big arch culvert.
yes, it is a big arch culvert.
It's the twin of what Walmart had to put underneath China Lake Boulevard. So it's got to convey the same amount of stormwater. This particular property, assuming that at some point in the future, the developer that currently owns the commercial and the residential, if he sells this off and somebody else wants to go ahead with it, I know from a health and safety standpoint, the police chief mentioned back years ago that he wanted to have a circulation to be able to come off of Bowman Road and go through this neighborhood and into the neighborhood to the north, because otherwise the only way into this tract is off of Upjohn, down through the neighborhood and then down into this area, and that's...
Yeah, single access.
Right.
And they don't like a single access. So Daryl, stay there. Is there any comments from the public other than Daryl? Okay, Daryl, do you have any problems with the recommendations of staff?
I just request a couple of modifications. These should be easy. Again, number one would be the 36-month approval.
Right.
And then at the bottom of page 14 of 17, so this is public work condition A2 III condition E, second one up from the bottom, requiring a perk test. Now, the stormwater from this site is going to ultimately discharge into the Bowman Wash.
Right.
But we have a detention basin. It's not retention. So the percolation of the basin isn't really relevant because this basin is going to empty out into the Bowman Wash in probably an hour or two. So what we're doing with a detention basin is we hold the water and slow it down so that it doesn't all dump into the Bowman Wash at once. It's held in a basin and allowed to dribble out over an extended period of time, so it flattens the discharge curve going into the Bowman Wash and reduces the project impact to what it would have had into the Bowman Wash pre-development. And so ultimately, this basin should be empty within a few hours after a storm. So because it's retention, I'm sorry, it's detaining the stormwater, not retaining it. So I'd like to have condition E deleted, or at least acknowledge that it's not going to be required because.
Did you? I don't know what level of the when you got these conditions. I know we went back and forth some. But we did change some of the verbiage on this that just basically says if this detention method is utilized. Mm-hmm. So essentially, I think the thinking of staff is since you guys are going to be improving the Bowman Channel, why don't we just discharge directly into the Bowman Channel? Okay. So if you guys choose not to use that detention basin and you decide to put a house on that lot, all those conditions go away.
Okay.
So
that's fine. Next page, condition 3B. It says, the 8-inch sewer serving the site shall connect to the existing line in Mariposa. Well, the problem with that is, and I think it mentions this someplace else in the staff report, is that Mariposa, which is one of the connecting streets on the north boundary of this property, Mariposa sits about 4 feet higher than the ground that it sits on. And the reason it does is because that for whatever reason, when they built that project to the north, it all sewers into Upjohn. And so this part of the tract is jacked up in the air, and this sewer manhole that you want me to connect to is impossible. It's in about 3 foot of cover in ground. It's already a foot above my site. So I can't connect to this manhole without a lift station. But I can connect to the east through the commercial project that this developer also owns. So, and I would just request that the conditions simply say that the project has to connect to the city sewer, but it can't connect as it's described here. It's a design issue. If we can just delete condition B and C. That way sewer improvements just say design and construct 8-inch sewer line to serve each parcel, and then D would be construct 4-inch sewer laterals. Bottom line is we have to sewer to the city sewer, and that's an engineering issue that we'll have to deal with when we get into design.
I don't see any issues with that. Lauren, do you have any issues with allowing us to figure out an alternate place for them to connect their sewer in the future once engineered plans are available?
Well, the only thing you're betting upon is that the other project will go in advance and sewer would be made available. By a general statement like that, you don't have any reassurance that they're going to have to get easements or ability to get an easement to extend a line through that commercial property to be able to sewer the property.
I would venture to say that that's not our problem if they can't get sewer and get.
No, I don't. I disagree. Daryl, since PM owns both of these, I think that's who it is, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yes. Would they be willing to give a variant or an easement to this property? Because I assume that this property would have to build to here. But in the event that 5 acres isn't developed, then that easement needs to go all the way to China Lake.
Right.
And that developer would have to put all that in, which would then be the benefit of that 5 acres. But I think that needs to be a condition that if I would agree with what you're saying, as long as an easement is provided.
Okay. Well, that would be,
If he sells off that subdivision
Yeah,
and retains the other one.
right, if he sells it off, but you'd be amazed the amount of due diligence I have to do for builders that are buying property. This will be flashing like a red beacon. But I don't mind a condition in there that says the project must provide a sewer connection to the east to,
That's essentially what I was hinting at. As
Yeah.
long as he has some way to connect to our system,
Right.
whether or not he can get an easement from that property owner really isn't our concern right now.
well.
That would be a condition of the development that he has to figure out a way to do it.
Right, and if the project gets sold, so let's say Dave Michaels sells off this to a developer, if there's a condition in there that says he has to sewer to China Lake Boulevard, then he's going to turn around to Dave and say, okay, I want the easement now, before we close escrow. So, a condition like that just
Okay.
alerts the future buyer that they're going to need that. There's also an option to sewer to the, there is a sewer main in Bowman Road, but you have to go across the Bowman Wash to do that, and that has its own problems. We might be able to do something like that, hanging a piece of pipe next to the bridge that's going to go in. So there are different engineering ways to do this, but I just know we can't sewer to the north. We'd have to make the water run uphill, so.
I do have a question for staff. Should B be completely deleted or just the part that's calling out Mariposa? And same thing for C.
Like Daryl said, I think you need to put in there needs to be some sort of a condition that states that there needs to be a new manhole at whatever their connection is, and that they shall connect to city sewer. Because if we leave that open to interpretation, that means a developer buying this could come in and potentially think we can put septic in for all these houses. So I think a condition to connect to city sewer needs to be in the document.
Right, and I'm asking specifically for the first 2 sentences that call out the specific location. Should that be the part removed and keep the connection shall require
Yes.
the manhole?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with that. The 8-inch sewer serving the site shall connect
To city sewer.
to city service, yeah.
Right. Instead of a
And
specific
we'll leave
site.
it up to the engineers to figure out how the best way to do that.
Do you know a good one?
Lauren, do you take any exception to that?
The only thing to be cautious of is we would want to be able to see what they're proposing for a sewer in an easement, because sometimes easements, depending on where they run through a property, are difficult to maintain. So you want to make sure that it's going to be in some sort of public access way, a street or of sorts, versus running through people's backyards or through a commercial properties operation. So you would want to scrutinize whatever easement is proposed. You'd also want to scrutinize the depth of the sewer line to be able to specify whatever width of easement you need for a sewer line. Naturally, if it's a deep line, you want a wider sewer easement to be able to dig it up, replace it, or repair it in the future. So there are some things you have to be cautious of to just blindly say, put it in an easement.
Well, I don't think we're putting that in as far as an easement. I think we're just saying it has to hook up to city services. And that easement is going to have to be worked out by the developer, correct? That's what we're proposing.
Yeah, and it'll require an offsite easement that satisfies all the concerns that Lauren's
Yes.
just raised. I don't think we need to put those all in the conditions.
I don't either.
those are going to have to be
Well,
satisfied.
you know, I like to be able to memorialize things because, you know, who knows when this land developer will sell this to a builder and when that might occur and what staff might be in place when that does happen. So it's always good to have something to memorialize the conversation or whatever the condition might be to at least make them conscious of concerns that we have presently.
With that note, and this is correct me in my way of thinking, no matter whatever easement that is going to be dedicated to the city. Mm-hmm. So if the city doesn't like the easement, the city can refuse to take withhold of the easement. So I still feel that the city holds all the cards there.
Yeah, well, and I would say to the commission that I don't think there's a reason to put additional language in there other than to hook up to city services. You know, I think that muddies the waters, and if we put it in a cast iron box, then there's no wiggle room either. I mean, obviously the developer's going to say, how am I going to do my sewer? And he's going to need to obtain an easement. So that's going to come at time of development. So I tend to agree, Commission, with Mr. Whitten.
I agree.
So any other changes, Darrell, that you're concerned about?
Nope, that's it.
Heather, do you have these down, these changes?
I do.
Would you read them to us, please?
Johnny on the spot.
Let me get to page 10 here. So the first change is to number 1, and that would be a 36-month approval, and that will extend the map out to expire September 28th of 2024. The next change will be on Public Works requirement A2, A3E, which was the percolation test. That would be deleted.
I don't know that we were deleting that. I think we were okay with since there was if they choose to use this form of detention. But Darrell, correct me if I'm wrong. Is that the route we want to go?
Well, if it's for detention, then it's by its nature and design, it should perk in a few hours, or it should be dry. The purpose of the perk test is when you're retaining, you want, you know, the basin is going to fill up, and the only way to empty that basin is for it to percolate into the ground, and you want it to perk within 7 days.
And I would agree with you, except, so then why in Kern County do they require percolation tests in the bottom of detention basins to prove that it will drain within 7 days?
No, they do in retention basins, but a detention basin, if it's designed right, will drain in a few hours. And so there's no need to do a perk test on a detention basin.
So what we want to do is we want to take off the perk test.
Correct. It's condition E. It says perform percolation test of native soils in the area of the detention basin to determine percolation rate. Detention basin must drain or percolate in 7 days. So that was the condition that he was asking to be removed.
If I may, can you? I'm having a tough time wrapping my head around this because no matter what happens, you're going to have an inlet at the base. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have an outlet at some point higher than the base.
Nope. No, usually, in fact, here's the way I like to do detention basins. You'll have a 12, let's say you have an 18-inch pipe coming up to the Bowman Wash.
Pipe size is how you do it.
And then you neck it down to maybe an 8-inch pipe that goes out to the Bowman Wash. And then you have another 18 that shunts off to the side into this basin. So when you get a peak flow of water, when you just got little dribbles, it just goes out to the Bowman Wash.
Gotcha.
But when you get the big flush, it fills up the basin, and then the basin slowly empties as it dribbles out through the 8-inch pipe.
That makes sense.
And so ultimately, at the end of the day or the end of the storm, you've got an empty basin, but it's emptied out very slowly. So that's the difference between retention and detention.
That makes sense to me now.
Okay.
That makes sense to me now that he's explained.
Okay,
it to
so
me.
you're okay with that. We're not going to require the perk test, but we'll leave the rest of the language, correct? That way, if the developer wants to, as suggested, build that lot and put everything into the Bowman Channel,
Right.
okay, that can come back to us.
Right.
Okay, Heather?
Okay, so the next is number 3, which is sewer improvements. B would remove the specific site, so it would then say the 8-inch sewer serving the site shall connect to existing city services. And then it goes on to say the connection shall require a new manhole with a new manhole base and connection. And then C would say the trenching will require restricted adherence to the city standards. So it would again delete that specific Warner Street and Mariposa. The last one would be number 4, and that is the variance. So that would include the language that was on the last one, where that would be a staff approval with the appropriate conditions. And that will
Okay.
be it.
Any other questions from commission? Anything from the public? Okay. Then I will take a motion to approve as the changes have been put there, the variance approved upon the conditions of the grading plan, same language that was used on the other one. In fact, I'll recommend that we approve it under those conditions with those changes. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Chairman Cox?
Wait just a minute. That's Resolution 2108?
Correct.
Okay, now.
Chairman Cox?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Ferris?
Aye.
Commissioner Hayman? Aye. Commissioner Mondragon?
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins?
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay. Moving on, tentative track map 7360, a request to subdivide 13.04 gross acres of vacant land into 56 single-family residential lots averaging 7,110 square feet with a minimum lot size of 6,000 square foot located on the southwest corner of Upjohn Avenue and Richmond Street, APN 343070 and -24. Staff?
All right, so this map is located on Richmond Road and Upjohn Avenue. The site is approximately 13.04 acres of vacant land. The zoning for this is single-family residential, and the general plan designation is residential low. The surrounding property to the north is residential, to the south is industrial, and a dedication for the future expansion of the Bowman Channel. To the east is vacant land and the Desert Empire Fairgrounds, and to the west is vacant single-family residential. So access to this development would come from Richmond Road and Upjohn. The map consists of 55 lots with 12.5 net acres. It's residential low designation, which requires a minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet. The map has the minimum lots of 6,000 and the average lot size is 7,110 square feet. The parcel is zoned single-family residential. The same variance is requested for this one. So staff found it to be in conformance with the zoning ordinance and the general plan. If Planning Commission is favorable to it, we would recommend that the variance be worded as with the other 2 maps at the time of engineering review, be a staff level approval. The negative deck was circulated for this project, and we did receive comments again from the Department of Toxic Substance Control, and the project is conditioned to deal with any potential for contaminated soils. Staff recommends a 36-month approval of the map and that Planning Commission adopt the negative declaration.
So did I hear you right? Staff is recommending the variance?
Yes.
Commission, questions?
It's the same conditional acceptance of the variance, correct?
Correct.
Any other questions? Public comment, Darrell?
Okay, I think I just have one here, and I think you've already got language. This has to do with the need for a generator and the perk test and all that. So this particular site sits at a spot that gets occasional flooding because of its location downstream. It's towards the end of the Bowman Wash. We're going to use soils out of the Bowman Wash to lift the pads and make sure that everything on the site is flood safe. And then the Bowman Wash is going to be dug out and used as a sump. The drainage master plan actually has the Bowman Wash being hogged out and going all the way down until it finally daylights where the old freeway was going to connect back up to Highway 178 at Ridgecrest Boulevard. So we're going to excavate our portion of that we're adjacent to and use that dirt to raise the pads on this site. So for the foreseeable future, the stormwater retention will be done in the excavated area where the Bowman Wash now currently sits. So if the basin doesn't perk, then it will need to have a lift station that can pump it out in 7 days and discharge it at some point downstream that allow it to perk out. So the main problem I had with this condition was that this requirement for a generator, but I think, have you already revised the language on that?
So the language is not revised. What I've looked at is that it just basically says design and construct a well point for which a pump from or on our generator pump pad. I don't know that it necessarily specifies that the generator is required in my reading of it.
Okay, well, I've got condition on page 14 of 16, condition A2I. Says construct a pad for a generator. It doesn't actually say one's required. Okay. Well, if the sump won't pump, if the sump does not perk in 7 days, then this is an appropriate condition. If it will perk, which once you get below the caliche in this part, everything perks like crazy. But I don't have a problem with the condition in there. It's an appropriate condition, and so as long as it's understood that I don't think we want to put a generator out there. That was the only concern I had with this map. Everything else is fine. So we're going to approve it for 36 months. That's condition number 1. And the variance is going to be approved subject to the grading plan approval by the city staff. So that's fine. Thank you.
Travis, can we modify I?
If I can, Mr. Chairman, it should say if it doesn't drain within 7 days.
Pending perk.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to add that. Well, leave the language, but just put pending perk
Correct.
test. Okay. That's where I was getting at. Any other comment from the public? Commissioners? Do I have a recommendation and approval with those changes of 2009, isn't it?
Correct.
2109.
2109.
So moved. Or, yeah.
Yes. So you're recommending it. I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay. Chairman Cox,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Ferris,
Aye.
Commissioner Hayman,
Aye.
Commissioner Mondragon,
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins.
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Thank you. Darrell, thank you for your time. Thank you. I appreciate it very much. Okay. Moving on, I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:01. Move on to discussion and other items. Recommendation to the City Council of proposed action to approve a resolution of the City Council summary vacating, a portion of the east right-of-way of South Down Street between Wasp Avenue and 165 feet plus or minus north of the center line of Wilrose Avenue. Staff report.
Do you want me to take this one?
I have some pictures for you, but I will let you present.
So, staff is looking at vacating a portion of unnecessary right-of-way. Currently, there's a 95-foot section of right-of-way that is located from Wasp Avenue to just south of Bataan. There is portions in the center of it that are already vacated. The portion at the end is vacated. So essentially what this does is this makes this, it's a piecemeal right-of-way.
Heather, have you got another, excuse me, do you have another picture?
I have a couple of pictures, but if you want to see the actual parcel maps and stuff, make sure you look at your staff reports. You'll see Exhibit A shows all of the different portions of right-of-way.
Any of your pictures aerial?
No. But this, the parcel map will show you the aerial.
Okay.
So the picture that's up on the screen right now that you guys are looking at, once you guys have a place map and you understand where you're at, this is looking from the adjacent neighbor who has, if you look at that Exhibit A that you're looking at, you can see Lot 26 at the bottom of the page. The only legal access they have to the lot is 2 downs. Staff felt that being that this right-of-way is piecemeal, it is excess, and we don't want to maintain it. We've had calls to maintain it because it is not maintained by homeowners because it is technically our city property, for lack of a better term. And we got to thinking about, we had a builder request to be able to think about a variance to build up to the right-of-way line. And we thought long and hard about this, and we thought that we've got more than one person that wants us to do something with this land. It's time for us to vacate it. So this has already been to council once for their notice to intent to vacate. So we are here to confirm with you guys that it meets the circulation element and you guys don't see anything glaring. One of the big issues that staff had is obviously the maintenance of it. We don't want to maintenance it, but Ms. Spurlock over there so graciously pointed out to me, because my mind did not wrap around this, if we do not allow the lot that is directly south of Lot 26 to have access to Down Street, that would effectively give them a 5-foot setback on that side. So if you look at that picture where that backhoe is, that backhoe right now is about 15 feet off that side, and you can see how it impedes your vision looking down the road for backing out onto Down Street. Now imagine that being a house being 10 foot closer to the sidewalk. You wouldn't be able to see around the corner to see people coming until you were basically had to back into the car out into Down Street. With that, staff felt that based on the map, when we vacate this, it does grant the developer access to Down Street, and we felt that it was in our best interest to allow them to have access to Down Street because, one, the adjacent lot has access, and by allowing access to Down Street, which the developer has said that he is more than willing to situate the house facing Down Street, you have a 25-foot setback, which gives more sight distance to the adjacent homeowner. Other than that, we've had one other homeowner which requested us to vacate this. That lot is on Wild Rose. So, like I said, all in all, we have 3 lots onto the south that we would like to vacate. Lot 1 of Tract 2, 2555 has already been vacated, and we want to vacate the northern portion of Wild Rose and the southern portion of Wild Rose. And with that, I'm open for any questions. One other thing, I'm sorry. We feel the reason why it was a 95-foot right-of-way in the beginning is because it was designated as a, what was the term they used? Public highway, there it is. And a 55 to 59 foot right-of-way will satisfy, or more than satisfy, our major arterial, which is how Downs is currently constructed and built out to.
Thank you. Heather, anything you want to add?
So I would just clarify that Planning Commission on this is saying that the vacation of this right-of-way, the additional right-of-way, meets the circulation element. So if you look in your staff report, there is the circulation element diagram. And so Downs is classified as an arterial. And when the map was formed, which was prior to the city incorporation, the dedication was for the highway. So the city has no intention of using that right away, so it is within the circulation, it's in conformance with the circulation element. So that's what the current circulation element is, and the Planning Commission just has to determine that that is the appropriate, and so that would deem all of that excess right away as excess.
Any questions for staff from the commission?
So I do have a question. Is it legal for the city to vacate this land without financial compensation?
Yes, it is. Because it's a right-of-way, it is also part of the environmental as well. It's not land that anything could be done with. It's not conform. You couldn't develop it in any way. So we don't have to have any compensation to
Well, correct me if
vacate
I'm
it.
wrong, a right-of-way is different than ownership. The land is actually owned by the owner of that lot, but it has a right-of-way within that property.
Essentially, you are 100% correct. What it does is it gives the city a senior right to that land. So technically, the land is everywhere a city has right-of-way. The property lines extend to the center lines or to other boundary lines. But because we have an offer of dedication that the city has accepted, the city has, for lack of a better word, taken ownership, but possesses that land, has the right to the use of that land. And thus, by us vacating this 55 feet, a 55-foot by 60-foot does not conform to a legal lot size, so therefore it cannot be developed. Thus, it meets the requirements for the exemption.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So we're going to call this Resolution 2110.
Correct.
Okay, so I'd move that we approve Resolution 2110. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Chairman Cox,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Ferris,
Aye.
Commissioner Hayman,
Aye.
Commissioner Mondragon,
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins.
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Thank you. Do we have any commissioner comments or reports from committee?
Economic Development Committee has met and discussed ICSC and our attendance there this year in December. And so I will have more on that after we return.
Okay. Commissioner Hayman?
Quality of Life met and went just over the activities that are going on at the community center.
Okay. Quality of life, well, I won't go there. Okay. Bernie, anything?
No comments.
Commissioner Jenkins?
So from the Infrastructure Committee, just had a couple updates on the street lighting and moving SCE towards a standard light across town and a standard heat value for that light. That was a major update.
Sewer plant is on its way, moving forward. So we did get confirmation of what SCE was putting in. We had some concerns, lights that were down there off of Drummond, isn't it?
Correct.
And SC is going to update all of those to meet the citywide requirement. Anything else that you can remember in that committee?
No.
I have one thing. I just didn't know if any of the commissioners had any questions about the progress of the plant or had any questions that they wanted answered about what we're doing, where we're at with that.
So does the plan include a tertiary?
The plan includes language on that if somebody else would like to pursue a tertiary treatment, that the ability is there and that we would work with somebody to aid them with that. The city has no plans to take our water to tertiary. We feel that that cost should be borne by the people that want to use the water.
Okay. All right, future agenda items, Heather? Or commissioners, do you have something that you would like on? But in that, Heather, and the reason I mentioned you is we've talked about updating our site for communication to the Planning Commission that has been requested by one of our commissioners.
That's been done.
Okay. So, all I'm asking for is an update.
Okay. Yeah, so our city website does include a link now so that should the public be interested in contacting you, they can email you directly through the city site. And it would also go to city staff as well so that we could assist if it need be.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
Does it email all the commissioners at the same time to where if they reply to all the commissioners? I just don't want there to be a Brown Act violation there.
No, it can't.
No, it won't.
Okay.
Like if a commissioner, if you guys choose to respond, it would just go to whoever the respondee is. Now, the email goes to a city email called
Server.
It's planning commissioners. So they don't see your personal email that you guys have because you guys don't have city emails. So it will go to your personal, just so you're aware. So, how you choose to respond is up to you. And you can always direct it back to staff as well. But, a lot of times the things that you guys might see are just comments to items that are coming here anyway. So there is a link on the website that provides a public opportunity to contact. Also to Megan, provided you guys an update last time, but she's been, if you're on Facebook at all, she's been heavily updating city stuff and promoting our meetings as well. The other items that I would have is we can expect at least one abatement next month from the PD, and then we have an ordinance
We have an
recommendation.
abatement officer?
No.
Okay. So somebody.
No, we have a captain that's going to present it to us,
Okay.
so we get extra.
Get the man, the myth, the legend.
You want to take that on?
Do I want to take what on?
Abatement?
Abatement? I have plenty to do right now. I get tasked with
Just
multiple
a
things.
test, just a test.
I get tasked with multiple things at infrastructure every time we meet, so I'm good.
Yeah,
But I
okay.
heard a rumor
I was
that
going to
you
say, I
have
haven't given you
capacity.
enough. I haven't given you enough, right? All right. Is that it?
One last thing, obviously KFC will come back, but also it is staff's intention to go dark for November and December for Planning Commission unless something comes up. But at this point, we have nothing in the works that would make it in time for November and
November, December.
Correct, because that does fall during Thanksgiving and Christmas. So I will not be here. If you guys would like to be, let me know.
Okay. Can you give us an update on each one of these projects, like Panda Express, and, how far along they are when they propose to be open?
So Panda?
Starbucks, so on and so
Yeah,
forth?
I can do that right now if you want.
Okay, yeah.
So Panda.
You're on.
Okay. So Panda Express still intends, and they're getting close. So they intend to be open this fall. So within the next month or two, they do intend to be open. It's pretty far along if you've driven by it. Starbucks and Chipotle, we're probably looking at the beginning of next year. Dutch Brothers is moving along quite quickly. I think I'll let Travis.
I'm of the impersonation they have a 6-month build is what they're trying to accomplish. So I would assume either late winter, early spring that it'll be done.
Okay, and
Mojave View has approved, that's the affordable housing project. They have approved building plans. So that will be moving along, which also means that Travis will be even more busy with
this is
$6
the one on
million.
Norma, right?
Yes.
Right.
With $6 million in public improvement projects as well that we will see with that affordable
Bike trails.
housing. Bike trails, drainage, all of the ADA compliance on all of those streets. So Las Flores, Norma, and Drummond will all have ADA compliance on the sidewalks and the drive approaches. So that's a benefit to all those businesses.
And Arby's?
I have no clue.
I left the.
They're getting there.
They were working today.
The
inside
answer
the
is
building.
yes, just yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from staff or? Okay, then we'll close this meeting at 7:18.